Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week on Bright House Cable Channel 49. We've been on the air for 8 years on Bright House. We want to thank them for that. And this show is part of an internship program of AIDT, International Institute of Design and Academy, the International Design Academy over on Oak Ridge. Every year we get into the political thing as the politics comes around, and you know, we're in the middle of the presidential campaign right now, so I thought it was a great idea to have one of the leading politicians in Central Florida on the show. And we're welcoming tonight Gary Siplin, who is a state senator and a civil rights and minority leader, of course, here in Central Florida. Hi, Gary. How are you?
Hey, I'm blessed, brother. How you doing?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on, and congratulations for being on the air for 8 years. That's quite a feat.
Well, it's quite a feat, and I got to thank Bright House Cable because I don't pay for the airtime.
Hey,
so
praise God.
The only reason why I'm here is because we don't have to come up with all of that money, and the fact that we do the production in the school. So the production of the show, which costs a lot of money to produce, is done by IADT, the International Academy for Design and Technology here in downtown Orlando. So we take the tape that's produced here by the school, and then we run it over to Bright House, and then they air it.
So you give some rewarding students an opportunity to produce their productions?
Yeah, and they get the credits at the end of the show. They're going to see the credit roll, and those are actually students that do that. And then every semester we get Bright House to come down and you know, interact a little bit, you know, and give us some pointers.
So you're smart and Bright House is smart.
Well, I'm trying to be. You know, it's a bad economy. You got to survive somehow. You know, and in the minority community, we've had a bad economy for 200 years. so we got to get used to the idea of how to make things happen without having funding. You know,
making adjustments.
Exactly, exactly. And that's one of the topics I wanted to bring up with you because. With the economy the way it's been going, I run a nonprofit organization called Hispanic Achievers, and we see funding being reduced and reduced and reduced from the corporate sector.
Yes.
On diversity issues.
Yes.
They still have the diversity departments, but now I do contact with Fortune 5s, a lot of Fortune 5s in New York City, and it used to be a power base. You know, the diversity departments used to have a hardcore say. We need money to help these groups. We need help money. They're buying your products, so let's get back to the community. And I'm seeing a little roll. I'm seeing not a little. I'm seeing a lot of rollback in those positions, where all of a sudden, the people who are running those departments are kind of glad they have a job.
That's true.
You know, and so they're not kicking the can like they used to kick it. You know, because you know the environment is changing. And with the globalization of Fortune 500 companies, a lot of companies are putting emphasis internationally rather than locally.
Yes.
So we're losing a power base. And you know and I know that a very small percentage of people in the United States control a tremendous, disproportionate amount of wealth in this country. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? Where do you think it's going, and how do you think it's affecting the Hispanic and Afro-American community?
Well, you know, it's probably having an impact on the entire country, and that's why I think it's important that, you know, we want to grow millionaires and billionaires, but at the same time we want to make sure that they pay their fair share of existing in society and being a part of the American system. You know, since they have the bulk of the wealth, and maybe 75 or 65% of the other folk are either middle class or on poverty level, I think it's unfair to have, you know, the working class person paying 30% of their gross taxes on their income, and having that 1% who owns 35% of all the income paying less than 1% of the taxes. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with anybody being a millionaire or a billionaire, but I just think you need to pay your fair share to make sure that we get the services that we need in this country. Sometimes I listen to Hannity on Fox, you know, and I listen to a lot of that. I have my TV set in the office, so while I'm doing my calls and doing my work, I'm listening to the news and going back and forth between CNN, and I just kind of like, you know, I listen. It says, and he says, "How much money do you want me to give?" Well, give as much as you can. You know what I mean? Give you a fair share.
What you can't use. I mean, how much can a person use?
Spend, huh?
Yeah, how much can you spend in a lifetime, in 10 lifetimes? I mean, there must be a certain psychology to be able for a person just to accumulate money when you know that children are starving to death in the world?
You know, I don't know if they realize it. I don't know if we want to classify it as being selfish or greed. You know, as you said, you can only spend so much money, and that's why the large corporations have earned so much money, because they've outsourced. They don't have the bulk of their services or manufacturing companies in Florida to hire people. They outsource it to India and other international countries at cheaper labor, which has a negative impact on our economy. And I think it sums up to be selfishness or greed. And in both cases, it's going to have a negative impact on the country.
Yeah, I know that, you know, that was one of the things that I didn't mention that you mentioned, is about the outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
Because that is a major policy and pattern that's happening, that's disenfranchising the minorities. You know, finally, when minorities are getting to the point of getting into the system, making money, you know, and getting a share, all of a sudden, major corporations, and I look, I like the system. I have no problem with the system, but there's got to be a balance to it. And all of a sudden, you're getting corporations outsourcing what you said to Pakistan, making Pakistan rich.
Right. And
we're losing footing here from not only, well, the middle class is losing footing, let alone the poor in this country. The poor in this country are just got a lot poorer. And the middle class is now becoming poor. Right. You know? So there's got to be a change in the policy, you know, and obviously, you know, with the upcoming presidential elections, this is going to be a big decision of where America goes. Well,
I think President Barack Obama is on the right side of the issue. He's done a wonderful congratulatory job in getting AmeriCare for people who need medical treatment, and nationalizing that policy. And I think he did a great job with the American Stimulus Program to put a lot of people back to work. And now what he wants to do in terms of the third leg is to build more bridges and more schools. And as you know, once there's a hurricane in Florida, the economy booms, because you got all kind of construction, repairing of roofs, you know, pools and patios and things like that. So if you're going to build bridges again and redo our roadway, that again is going to stimulate our economy. So I think he's doing a wonderful job. I think the economy is turning around. I think it's going to get even better this summer, which means that he should be assured of a second term.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to be the guy to challenge him on the Republican side? You know, they had the Iowa caucus, you know, New Hampshire, and who do you, right now, you know, you had Romney and Santorum were neck and neck. They actually got both 25% in the last, in the Iowa caucuses. Who do you think out of the Republicans would be the candidate to run against Barack Obama?
Well, I think Romney won by 8 votes.
He did.
Again, it reflects how important minority votes are. Every vote counts. All right, but for 8 people voting, Romney wouldn't have come in first place, even though they shared 25 percentage points, but at least he can say that I won by 8 votes.
You want to know something? When you tell me you won by 8 votes, you know, and then I heard that the guy's bringing the votes in a van. You know, I'm saying there's a guy in the back of the van shifting votes. The American way, the American way. You know?
But getting back to your question, you know, each week you see there's some front runner. Michelle Bachmann was a front runner, I think 3 or 4 months ago. Now she decided to withdraw from the race. Newt Gingrich was a leader 3 or 4 weeks ago. He's undergone a lot of attacks, and he's now in 4th place. But if you look at the race, those in the race, the candidates, it seems like Mitt Romney has stayed the course. You know, even though he may not have been in first place every month, every week, he's hovering around 2nd or 3rd place, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place. And even as of last night in Iowa, he won by 8 votes. So I think eventually, if that maintains itself, and it seems that Romney just got an endorsement, I think, from President Bush, or John McCain, Senator McCain. So I think if that maintains itself, he'll probably be the one. But as far as I'm concerned, I think President Barack Obama will beat any one of them.
You think that Barack Obama is going to beat Romney? You know, Romney's really, I mean, he's you know, the way I feel about it is when you have 7 guys running, and they're all running, and they're all a bunch of horses running down the track, and they all seem to be more or less, you know, that means nobody's really standing out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like when Barack Obama ran, he stood out. He was, everybody knew. You know what I mean? Here, nobody's sure. You know, they say, okay, you know, Romney, Gingrich, you know, they're not sure about it, you know?
Well, that's
so
true, but
there's nobody
Romney,
who's really out there that pulls away from the pack.
that can last.
Yeah.
Gingrich he was in the front run. He thought he was going to win, and now he's in fourth place.
Well, he may come, but you never know. You know, it was like Huckabee took Iowa by storm last time, and he beat the heck out of Romney the last presidential, and then he faded out.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah, so you never know. He's a good endorsement now. So, and when you put Barack against Romney, where do you think the campaign issues are going to go?
Well, you know, the Republican Party is giving Barack Obama a lot of ammunition, you know, because they're constantly attacking each other. And I'm quite sure Newt Gingrich is going to begin to attack Mitt Romney in the future. So by the time we get around to August, after the decision has made, it's going to be Romney or Newt Gingrich or Perry, because Perry was in the lead for a while, and now he's like in 6th place. Who knows? Next month he may be in 1st place. We have a primary here in Florida, January 31st. So all depends on who beats Florida, because Florida has 29 electoral votes, I believe, right now. Yeah. So that's going to be a good hit and a good standing ground for whoever wins this state. And it's been said that whoever wins Florida on January 31st wins the election for the presidency. So it's going to be exciting.
So you're going to be working hard for the Democratic Party?
I'm going to be working very, very hard.
Okay. So is Barack Obama to come down and have some pizza with you, or, you know, go up to Mama, what was the restaurant we ate in? Mama
Nem's.
Mama Nem's, okay. He'd be stopping by Mama Nem's.
Oh, well, he should, and I'm quite sure he'll enjoy the meal.
Yeah, really.
He'll become a favorite like you.
I love that place. I love that place.
I know. It's a great food.
Yeah. So now that we have the presidentials and the major issues are going to be really fundamentally change the country, because, you know, Romney is going to try to stop Obamacare. They call it Obamacare. They're going to try to stop health care for the country, as far as having everybody have health care opportunity.
Right, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and they're not, I just don't see why people aren't branding it the way that it is. I mean, I'm conservative on some things and I'm liberal on some things. You know, I'm not like here or there. And I can't see the fact that, you know, people don't have health care. There are people in this country, I mean, people in all the other civilized countries have health care. We in the United States, we don't have health care. I can't see that. I just can't see that.
Well, there's an element because of who is bringing the new concept, you know, of AmeriCare, you know, health care nationwide. You know, people resent the fact that it is Barack Obama doing that. And as you heard them say time and time again, we want to take back our country. So, having said that, the point is, he cannot do any good. Whatever he does, is not going to reach a level of satisfaction with them, because they don't want him to remain as President of the United States. So even though he's advancing medical care for the entire country, which is good, and most of the people who are opposing Obamacare, as they say, need health care. They should be on it, and they ought to be on it, because they need health care. But yet and still they're opposing it because they don't like Obama, and they don't want him to remain as president for the next 4 years.
Well, they don't like him because the Republicans obviously don't like him because they have a real conflict on the policies that he has. And
that's one reason.
That big time. That's big time. What's the other reason?
He might be a minority.
No, he is a minority.
That might be the reason.
I don't question that at all in some parts of Florida too. You know, that, you know, I know that, you know, I'm white, I'm blue-eyed, and I'm Hispanic. But, you know, my community faces racism, a lot of racial issues in the state of Florida in some areas, not in all areas, but in some areas. There's no question about that. And there's no question about it being on a national level either. It's still there, no matter what laws, no matter what is there to say you can't do it, it's against the law, it's still there. How do you feel about the immigration situation in Florida?
Well,
you know, what's your position on it? What's your position on, you know, the undocumented that are already here? You know, what should we do with it? I mean, you're in Central Florida. You know, there's a lot of undocumented in Central Florida. I had Sister Ann here from Community Hope organization.
Wonderful person.
Yeah, and she committed to participate in the immigration program summit that we're going to have on March 31st, and she enlightened me in. You know, I know the umbrella concepts, right, but she brought me up to date on the nooks and crannies of what's really going on. So how do you feel about it?
Well, I filed a bill last year, and I filed the same bill again this year that will allow immigrants who came to this country, and as you well know, anybody that sets foot on American soil within 3 miles of the ocean, it's required in the state of Florida they get educated. So if you're from Russia and you come here as a child, we will pay for education, which is about $7,000.
It's like a dry foot, the dry foot, I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, dry foot, wet foot policy. But the point is, once they get to Florida soil, we are required under the Constitution to educate them.
And that's part of the Florida Constitution?
Absolutely. All right. So they are educated from 1st grade to 12th grade. They make A's and B's. They play football. They're on the soccer team, the drama team, the choir. And then when they get ready to go to qualify to go to college, they have to pay out-of-state tuition. What my bill would say is that if we have invested over 3 years for anyone, documented or undocumented, American citizen or not, that we're required to educate from the Constitution of the state of Florida, then we ought to give them in-state tuition.
Where is that bill now? I mean, is it going to go through? Is it in the House? Where is it?
Well, we have it filed in the House. Representative Dwight Bullard is filed in the House again this year, and I have it. It's going to be heard hopefully soon, maybe next week, in the Judiciary Committee in the Florida Senate. It did pass the committee last year.
Sister Ann told me that, but those students are still undocumented. You know, I had last week.
Well, they are documented because they're in school.
Well, they're documented, but they're still illegal. Or is that?
Well, that's true, but it's not of their fault. I mean, you know, as I said, the Constitution says if any child of educational age sets foot in Florida, we must educate them.
But are they protected from being picked up by ICE?
Well, I would hope so.
I had, like I'm mentioning to you, you know, the conversation I had with Sister Ann, and there's people are being picked up off the streets of Central Florida, according to her. You know, she told me that she knows a woman that went out to go to Winn-Dixie, and she never came back.
If you get stopped and there's a warrant for your arrest and they pull your name or your ID, and if you are an immigrant who doesn't have the correct status here, they will detain you, and you may never see your family again.
Well, that's one of the major issues we want to discuss in the summit.
You should,
because I think that's horrible, absolutely horrible. And then
I agree.
I had students here from UCF that were undocumented.
Interesting.
Okay? Yeah, and I have it on the show. We're going to put the show up on the website. But what happened was that they go to school every day.
Right.
I mean, they're enrolled as full-time students, and they did not want to show their faces on camera.
Well, I understand, because they don't want to be picked up.
They don't want to be picked up, but you know, that's a big issue. That's a horrendous issue.
Well, it is, because it has a huge economic impact on our economy. And, you know, believe it or not, there are a lot of jobs out there, even though unemployment is so-called high in the state of Florida, in the country, but there are a lot of jobs that people don't want. They don't want to be maids. They don't want to pick oranges. They don't want to pick tomatoes. So we need to eat. So they get people who are willing to do that, and those are the immigrants who may or may not be documented. So if you get a hodgepodge of state immigration laws, as you have in Alabama, in Georgia, and Arizona, then you may get some mistreatment of those undocumented aliens, and then of course it's going to impact the economy. We have people in our hotel motel industry who are undocumented. We have people in the agriculture industry who are undocumented, because no one else wants to do the job. So if you deport all those folk, who's going to clean the rooms? Who is going to do the lawn? Who is going to pick the oranges?
So why can't somebody introduce a bill, or is everybody afraid to? I mean, the political system is completely paranoid. You know, the Congress of the United States is completely paranoid about doing something just, you know, and coming out and saying, okay, you know, they've been here, this guy's been here 20 years, give him status, some kind of legal status.
Well, I think there's a history for doing that. As you recall, in '97, I believe, President Clinton gave the HARIFA, which was amnesty to any Haitian who's been over here under certain circumstances and status, which was a good thing. And I think they've stopped deporting Haitians back to Haiti because of the earthquake that we had, that they had a couple of years ago. But I think the answer is, Dan, is that we need to have a national policy. It must come from Washington, D.C. and apply, you know, countrywide, just like discrimination. You can't discriminate against a person for race, religion, creed, or nationality. So I think we ought to have some type of nationwide policy on immigration that's not a hodgepodge of discriminatory laws throughout those 50 states. I think we need to have a national policy which means that Florida and Georgia, Alabama, and Arkansas and Arizona must comply with. And it also must give consideration to those jobs that regular Americans like you and other folk don't want to do.
Why is it that it has, I mean, it's so logical. You can't send back 10 million people. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And then it'll create a hole in the economy because they're spending money here like crazy. I mean, if you take an adding machine and you go, okay, you got 10, 15 million people, and you multiply it by 500 a week or 400 a week.
They pay taxes.
They're paying, yeah, they're paying their way. They're paying sales tax, and you eliminate that out of the system, all of a sudden, the system loses hundreds of millions of billions of dollars. Where's the logic that it doesn't, these guys don't, in Congress, don't make this law or make a temperate? I mean, why? Why don't they do it?
It's an edge for them to get elected. It's an edge to increase fear from the so-called American citizens, thinking that their country is going to be taken away from them, that we're giving benefits to someone who does not deserve them when they themselves are having an economic downfall. So it's about fear, and that's what the Republican Party use in terms of making sure that they get elected. They talk about taking away the gun, they talk about abortion, they talk about family rights, and they kind of galvanize and mobilize their base, and that's a way of doing that so they can get elected and take control of Washington, D.C. and have more power. It is all about power.
And money.
And money. Well, money is power.
Well, you know, we have the richest Congress in history right now.
That's what they say.
I think the average is over $800,000 wealth per congressman, and 250 congressmen are millionaires. Yeah. 250 of them, more than half.
We don't oppose being rich and being a millionaire. It's just what you do with it, and if you're paying your fair share in society.
Well, I don't see why they have health care and somebody else who's poor doesn't have health care.
Well, I agree with
and that guy can vote for this guy, and this guy, as soon as he gets in, he gives himself great health care, and the guy who voted him in doesn't have health care.
Kind of ironic, isn't it?
I mean, it's just a lopsided. It just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for a lot of people. Because
it's politics.
The medical services are so expensive. You want to know something? I'm a cancer survivor. A few years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I had cancer. And, okay, I got cancer, you know, how do we fix it?
Right.
Well, you know, I had health care, and I had very good health care because my wife is a school teacher.
See?
And
praise God.
I was riding her policy.
Yes, sir. And you should, because you're a spouse.
And I walked into Florida Hospital every day for 90 days, and I received treatment. And right now, they don't find it anymore. I don't have cancer anymore.
You look healthy and strong.
It's asleep, but you know that we always got it. But the fact of the matter is, that made the difference between life and death.
Yes, sir.
And I was looking at some of the bills, and they're horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
Well, yeah,
so if you don't have health care, it's a death sentence.
And that's why
there's no question about that, because they tell you you can go to the hospital and get care, you know, but that's not true.
No, you're right. I mean, on an emergency basis for one time, you can do that, but eventually it's going to be a problem. But I agree. You know, it's unfortunate that the people who really need it are those who are opposing it across the aisle. Mm-hmm. And as you said, the Congress has health care, the Senate has health care. Why can't we give other Americans who've been working so hard in their lives, who can't afford health care, who don't have a job that provides health care, health care?
Yeah, that's one of the big issues that I think it's not humane. It's just, you know,
selfish.
It's just like, I have $18 trillion in the bank, and I'm not going to give 50 cents a day to feed a starving child.
Right.
You know, it's the same mentality. I just don't see it.
That's
it's just
greed, and it's
total.
It's not going to last.
So what are you going to, you in your last term right now, or?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so how much time do you have?
We have 11 months.
Okay, and then what are you going to do?
Well, we're trusting, as David said, should I pursue and will I recover, waiting on the Lord to give me my next assignment.
Are you going to run for another kind of office? You don't have to tell me, you know, which office, but are you thinking about it?
I probably am going to run for another office.
Okay.
Shortly.
Oh, I want to ask you what.
I want to know what it is too.
Well, you know what? As you go forward, opportunities change.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's
and positions change.
That's true.
Redistricting. What has happened in the minority community with redistricting?
Well, you know, there's a Senate seat for Hispanics in Central Florida. There may be another Hispanic seat for the Florida House of Representatives. And there may be a congressional seat that's accessible to a Hispanic American in Central Florida. As you well know, New York and Ohio and Texas, I believe, lost a seat, so we gained 2 seats. which means that we will have 2 additional congressional seats, and hopefully those 2 will be in Central Florida or nearby.
Okay, will they be minority?
Well, I think there's a strong push to include minority representation in those 2 seats.
Mm-hmm. There was a battle in Orange County over the seat for Mildred Fernandez.
Right. Right.
With that has been traditionally a Hispanic seat. Right. I think it was District 3. And when she left because she got in trouble, they replaced that. A non-minority took that seat, and then there was a big hoopla about it and all that. But the commission still went and wanted to recreate lines to separate the district.
Well, they have to.
Yeah.
Well, you know, every 10 years there's a census, which we had last year, and the numbers came out. And now, since the numbers have been revealed, it's incumbent upon us to redraw the lines to fit what the constituents need. And that's why I say we'll get 2 new congressional seats, and we may get, we're going to get new seats for county commission, new seats for the city commission, and the school board. And to that end, what I'm going to do, I've teamed up with C-SPAN, and on January 28th, we're going to meet at Evans High School, I think about 10 o'clock in the morning.
That was the next thing I was going to ask you about.
Absolutely. Evans High School at 10 o'clock, and we're going to have a town hall meeting on do you know where you should vote at, where you're going to vote at, and who's going to be representing you. So those are key questions that we're going to resolve in Tallahassee over the next 60 days in terms of our redistricting policy and what has happened in the county commission, the city commission, and the school board. We're going to discuss those issues with the experts and the elected officials and the audience, including the students.
Okay. There's some economic development things going on in the minority community. What's going on? Wasn't there a big project that's happening in Paramore?
Well, you know, I was blessed enough to have the Senate and the House agree to put $3.4 million in the budget for Pine Hills to help complement the $90 million edifice of Evans High School, that rebuilding. As you well know, you can't rebuild a community unless you have a state-of-the-art higher education institution. Now that we have Evans, we want to make sure we build upon that and have some economic development around Evans High School, and that's what the $3.4 million was for. I also put $900,000 in the budget for Paramore. As you well know, we're trying to grow and keep minorities there to help complement what the Magic has put and the City of Orlando has put downtown Orlando. So one of my primary goals to go into Tallahassee next week is to continue to put economic development dollars for District 19 in the budget to help President Barack Obama, to help our governor create jobs in Florida. And I know, and I'm quite sure you agree, and the audience will agree too, that once we have economic development to build and to construct buildings, that's going to bring about jobs, and that's going to have a very positive impact on our economy.
What do you think has been your greatest contributions? Because now you're looking at terming out during your career as a senator. What have been your greatest, what you see looking back?
Well, the ability to deal with 2 of the most vulnerable aspects of our population, that is our seniors and our students. As you well know, we created a jobs program that began as a summer internship program that has expanded year-round to not only provide internship and jobs for our most vulnerable students, but also to have a year-round educational program, life skills program, so they can matriculate through society to go back to school to make A's and B's. They become doctors and lawyers and plumbers and electricians so they can be viable and take care of their families. And that program has spread, has been advanced through 9 cities throughout the state of Florida. I'm very, very proud of that fact because, you know, a lot of children, a lot of students 16 years old or older have never had a job, and it's always good to give them first-hand experience so they can see what they can be. Most of them want to be a football player, a rapper, or a basketball player, and there's less than 10,000 jobs in those areas. But you can be a physician, a doctor, electrician, a plumber, and something that's viable and something that they can touch. So I'm very, very proud of that. Secondly, we were very instrumental in making sure that Evans gets redone, reconstructed in the heart of the Pine Hills community. That's about a $90 million project. But for the intervention with the assistance of the President of the Florida Senate, Jeff Atwater, myself and Reverend Bracey and other folk, local elected officials here in Central Florida, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Brummer, well, Commissioner Lynham, we were able to make sure that Evans is rebuilt and was rebuilt within 12 months in its current site. And that brought about economic development in the Pine Hills community.
We are out of time.
You sure?
Yeah, it went fast. This is Danny Ramos on Hispanic Speak Out TV. We will see you next week right here. Tune in to learn about what's going on in your community.